Research notes. September 10th, 1995. Wayne, at the monastery, complete. It's been a long road since I first... Even after referencing lectures of all ages and rendering the text still remains a difficult task. Though it has been 4 years since I first laid eyes on it, never once has left in my mind. Contained in it is countless descriptions of sources of energy that is the secret of life's existence. The Druid's cryptic experiment taken on the ancient recorded by Alexander the Great hundreds of years before Christ. Bound and forbidden implies it was kept hidden in the depths of the Pope's cores for a long time, and now I have it in my hands. I have reached the land referred to in the text. I will fulfill my wife Elma's resurrection at the monastery built by... Of course, I am aware that my act could prove insolent in the eyes of the Lord, and however people may censor my actions, the love I have for my wife will never cease. I ask you of the Lord to turn your eyes away for a short while. November 16, 1895. Wayne, the more I learn about this monastery, the more eerie the structure appears to be. Mentioned that had been full of corpses at one time a full 100 years ago, and has become aware of an imposing sense of mortal sin as I walk through the underground passages. I can feel haunting spirits everywhere, but according to the power of such was or consider the divine force behind reviving the Druid's cryptic experiment. I plan to fill this place with the all-consuming eerie of these spirits. Even though I may burn in hell for these sins, if it can be brought back to life, I shall have no regrets. December 5th, 1895. Wayne, I found out that the cauldron hidden in the basement held the key to the secret. Even though the book had mentioned it, the well-positioned trick door kept us from locating its whereabouts. The cauldron looks as if it's made out of gold, but upon closer examination, the surface is so old that one cannot determine how long it's been in existence. I would guess that it is a prehistoric artifact made a few thousand or maybe even tens of thousands of years ago and left in sit. We must quickly set up an altar and begin the preparations of the ceremony. December 16. Wayne. It's Wayne every freaking day you do a journal. I ordered him to acquire some livestock. 320 chickens and 43 pigs were purchased through the supplier in town. I arranged the ground transportation, but the fog did not help. I expected to be busy as soon as the delivery arrives. Animal offerings are an aligned part of the Druid experiment. The cauldron must be filled with the freshest blood and flesh. The freshest blood and flesh? Flesh? This is where it begins. February 24th. The third experiment. Still no response. Even though I followed the directions and offered the proper prayers, there were no signs of the spirits gaining any strength. I must return to the book and reread some parts, since I cannot proceed if it has been some misunderstanding of the text. Is there a problem with the way I conducted the experiment, or the offerings inefficient? Regardless, I need to think this over. Even though I may arrive at a terrifying realization, it is too late to feel anything now. I have came too far to be impaired by fear. I am sure Owen will understand. March 19. Return from London. An specifically ordered carriage seems to be working very well. I trapped 3 women in the basket in the back. I lured some victims out of an alley in the East End, had them sniff out some chemicals and pulled them into the carriage, but since I was not used to my new wars and abductor, it took more time than I had planned. I could not have done this without I'm deeply grateful to him. March 25th. I'm still at a loss. I cannot make up my mind. Even if I bring him back to life, are my actions forgivable? I balk when present with this dilemma. Bessie has been taking care of the women I've kidnapped. It's better than them freezing in some corner of London. I hope this small gesture of kindness will be considered as an apparent act of repentance. I wonder if my small kindness will have any significance when I hold up the hideous act I'm about to commit. I must make up my mind. I must. Dear Lord, I have without a doubt committed a crime no human should have committed. I conducted the druid experiment using the flesh and blood of the victims. I sensed the incredible energy of the spirits committed into one when I poured the woman's remains into the cauldron. As I had thought before, it is human flesh that needs to be offered up to fully release the effects of the produce. What a frightening arcane process this is. The sounds of the fury of the women's death screams have not left my eyes, but I must go on. There was no turning back now. April 12th. Once again I performed the procedures. Once again rounded 4 victims from London, even though they are all old with barely a thing to live for. When I completely taking their lives, it leaves me sick to my stomach. It may be due to my doubts that the spirits did not rise to such a powerful strength as before. I may have to use a younger, more vibrant source of energy. The book says to fill the cauldron with energy of haunted spirits. I wonder how many victims the cauldron must swallow to be satisfied. June 5th. I do not have enough victims. The presence inhabits us from claiming authoritative power. I have concluded that it will be necessary for us to offer many more lives before we are finished here. I have since found 35 more victims for 7 separate experiments, but the spirits have not responded with much strength. For me to accomplish the resurrection, I am in dire need of the strength of the spirits. I must come up with a way. I must come up with a more efficient way to produce my victims. July 15th. I finally received my first shipment of my victims. It was right when he suggested that we should offer the Lord of the slave trade an enormous amount of money for this matter. He has no compassion for human life. The victims, not given much information, and arrive at the monastery expecting a routine night's walk. It is not necessary for us to go hunting for prey in town. With a few sugar-coated lies, there are plenty of people that will climb right into the carriage. There is no one that will dare speak of what is to become of them. September 9th. Poured the remains into the cauldron. The energy levels of the cauldron have clearly increased, which makes me happy since it proves that I'm heading in the right direction. It seems that lately I have become more efficient in performing the task required for the procedures. However, Organdin and I cannot expect to become much more prevalent, as it is impossible for us to hire help since we must keep this matter purely quiet. I've decided to poison ore for a laboratory table for an experiment manufacturer. It will take about a month to make, but once we receive this, we will be able to manage more experiments. October 3rd. Butchered 3 bars since morning. After lunch, we made repairs to the bell tower in the main church. After dinner with Bessie and Argan, I butchered 3 more buys. The lab table has proven its worth. The spirits have certainly increased in strength. At this rate, I may finish preparing the resurrection before All Saints' Day. October 14th. 6 buys butchered this morning. 5 in the afternoon, 1 after dinner. November 1st. How I have been awaiting this day. The day to conduct the resurrection ceremony has finally arrived. The cauldron is gleaming with the remains of my victims. This monastery is now consumed by the energies of the paranormal spirits. Even a saint could not hold his ground against the powerful energy of these hex spirits. I took urns by which had been preserved in chemicals for this very day and placed it on the altar, and I then began reenacting the chant. Ellen, you are still as beautiful as ever. I love you so much. Please forgive me for calling you back from the land of the dead. November 7th. What is going on? I have lost all hope. All my efforts and dreams have only been an illusion. The tree of life that grew upwards out of the corpse as if lapping lands by was solely a manifestation of the druid's cryptic experiments that I have been seeking. If God is capable of creating beings out of nothingness, then this indeed is a man-made example of his work. But to my horror, the image of my resurrected wife displayed in a flower petal looked just like she did before, yet it lacked a human soul. Indeed, it was a monster. Dear God, is this the punishment you have chosen for me? What have I accomplished by victimizing nearly 200 innocent people? My only hope in life lay in believing that resurrection was possible and dreaming of the day when my wife could join me here in life on earth once again. Now I have nothing but a cauldron full of blood and hex spirits and a soulless monster. Is this the end that has been awaiting me, dear Lord? Have you no mercy? I only have one path left to follow. I have lost too much. I cannot even find words to apologize to Logan, who has lent me his strength along the way. Now I only long to sleep in peace with my wife. Wow, that's disturbing. So, it sounds like he basically killed himself. So, he left us a giant, horrifying ghost monster. Lovely. Something's not white. There's always something not white. You see a portrait of a young woman. The frame reads, "My dear wife, Elaine." Well, I think I want to check one more thing before we go check on that. I want to see what that other door upstairs goes to. Because we still don't actually know. So let's go check that real quick. Because I know there's usually... I'm not sure if that's going to be the disc change, but I'm not sure what's going to happen next disc change. Does this say anything? No, just 2 AM statues. Okay, so that proved fruitless. Oh dear. Okay, make sure we're all loaded up here. I'm pretty sure the rifle is almost full white. There, got fooled up. We already, what's everyone's HP? James is a little damaged, but he should be fine. Okay then, let's go find out what awaits us in hell here. I wonder if this is supposed to be her grave. Can't be the end quite yet, though. This is a... Not sure what's up with that.